Pet Nation? It's Dr. T here, and welcome to Your Pet Matters, the Collaborative Vet podcast and YouTube channel. And I am stoked because believe it or not, I can read. And I've actually got the author of this book here. And the beauty for me personally is this person is local to where I am. I know her husband, and I'm getting to know her, and I got to know her by reading the book. This book is phenomenal for anyone. Anyone needs to read this. It's called Sit, Stay, Heal, What Dogs Can Teach Us About Living Well. And I am so honored to have the author, Dr. Renee Alsarraf. She's a veterinary oncologist on the show. So Renee, thanks so much for being on the show. It's great having you here.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And what I like to do with my guests initially on the first part of the show is we do what we call the origin story. So what got you into veterinary medicine? And then what sort of life changes, choices, events happened that led you to become an oncologist?
So I have wanted to be a veterinarian since the age of 7, and I have never wavered. Wow. And I remember my dad wanted me to go to medical school, and people would say, oh, it's so much harder to get into vet school, or you can make more money as a human physician and just have a bunch of animals. And it never deterred me one bit. Like, I just knew it was my calling. And then my father also happens to be a human medical oncologist, so that might be the slant for oncology. But when I was a sophomore veterinary student going into junior year, on the bulletin board, right, back when there wasn't the internet, you found out about life through, a piece of paper and a tack. I was in Michigan, and there was an application for the Animal Medical Center in New York City for summer externs. And I applied to oncology. Maybe they didn't have a lot of competition because I did get that position. And so I didn't look back. I packed my bag for the summer. I was there for 6 weeks, and it changed the trajectory of my life. I didn't realize that there were really viable veterinary specialties out there, short of at a university and a teaching hospital. And I knew that I absolutely loved the study of or the treatment of cancer in animals. From there, after I graduated, I did do an internship at the Animal Medical Center, and I matched there as well for a medical oncology residency.
Wow. And so can I ask you, did you get in on your first try to vet school?
I did. Yes. Yeah. And at the time, I think they still do this. Michigan State had, you could do undergrad kind of in an accelerated 3-year program. And I decided to do that thinking, because so many people take 2 or 3 or even 4 tries to get in. I thought, well, this way, if I don't get in, I can stay another year and get a teaching certificate and be like a high school biology teacher. But I was really fortunate to have gotten in.
That is awesome. No, and so you're underplaying your capabilities here. I apologize. My dog bark. I think the doorbell rings. My dog.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's okay.
I can't tell you how many times this happens on the show, but that's real life, people. That's real life. It's okay. It's okay. Any big events in vet school? So you said one of the life-changing things was applying for that externship, right? But was there anything in vet school that you could give as an advice to a young vet student that would help them? Because, as you know, vet school can be very difficult. And, we get in there on first year, we're yay. And the second year, it's like, third year is like, right? It's things like that. So any advice you could give a young veterinary student that would help them through the process?
I think the most valuable lesson I learned was when I was a senior veterinary student, right? So we're in clinics, and I was with this very senior clinician, shadowing him and going in and out on cases. And there was one case, I don't remember the details of the case, but it was very sad. And the family was crying, and I noticed, the gentleman just had his arms straight down by, his white lab coat. And I think I probably got a little misty. I know I didn't outright cry, but it was a sad moment, and the family left, and the clinician and I went in the back, and he pulled me aside. He's like, don't worry, Renee. After you go through a few of these, after a couple of years, you'll harden up and it won't affect you. You'll be fine. And I thought, that's the exact opposite thing I ever want to do, right? Like, I want to feel all my feelings, feel sorry sometimes for my husband, haha, but I want to, right? If it ever becomes that I'm not feeling those feelings for that family or that pet, that's when I want to stop and hang up my lab coat. We shouldn't.
Go ahead.
We shouldn't be stoic, right? We shouldn't be machines. We should be living, breathing, feeling beings, because you're going to have good outcomes and you're going to have bad outcomes. But that advice for that vet student is, what that family will remember is that we cared and we tried.
And it's interesting because in the book, I realized the first case, Daisy, Mrs. Johnson, you hugged her. And so you are a hugger, because after that one instance, I see hug. And that's phenomenal. And what it led to me was a sense of like, and we'll get to this because I want to talk about your team, is that there's this journey you go through, not only with the patient, but equally as important with the pet parent. And I think that's phenomenal. And I understand you started a support group, right, for bereavement way back before support groups actually existed.
Correct. Yes, actually, I was a senior in veterinary school, and I saw all of these families just grieving, and there was nowhere to go with their grief. And at the time, even it wasn't even socially acceptable to talk so much about it, unless, right, with another fellow dog or cat lover. And I was able to get a large amount of donations so that it could continue on even after I left. And I'm sure now it just has its own, life of its own, but it was good.
See, you do things like this, and I started a Scotch Appreciation Club. Like, this is a totally different thing. It's probably still going on too, but
that's awesome. That's great.
But that's phenomenal. And in the book, because I'm talking about you, so in the book you talked about the mind over matter thing, and there's a lot of things about manifestation now and how to manifest things, and so is that something that you draw upon on an everyday basis, and especially through your cancer diagnosis and everything like that?
100%. I realized to many people, they probably thought she's lost her marbles, but I was convinced that I could will away the side effects. I was convinced that people said, oh my gosh, were you scared going through it? Were you this or were you that? I was in a battle, and I was hoping to win all the battles, but ultimately I was determined to win the war. And you'll think I'm crazy, but I sort of feel like I manifested my book as well.
And that book is Sit, Stay, Heal: What Dogs Can Teach Us About Living Well. We'll be back with more from the wonderful Dr. Renee Alsarraf after these messages. Stay tuned.